installation of the Committee on the Present Danger China to speak.
Hello everyone. Today I'm here standing in front of you with great honor and privilege because just about 10 years ago I absolutely hated Falun Gong. I absolutely supported the Chinese Communist Party. You might be wondering what I am doing up here now. Well, here's my story before I get onto our main speech. Back in 2010, 2009 and onward, while I was in high school, there was a student during our world religion class where she actually presented something about Falun Gong. And I looked at her at the end of her speech and said, "You are wrong, and the Chinese government is right." And she asked me why. I told her that she was wrong because if groups like Falun Gong grow too much, then it'll become a threat to China. It'll become a threat to your government. And therefore, China has all the right to protect itself. Isn't that crazy? And as I progressed towards college, one thing I began to realize is that, maybe I can expand my activities of trying to find out China. You see, to me, China was the image of the future. China, especially after the 2008 Beijing Olympics, was a model for the whole world, where there is elements of freedom, but with progression and this great big government that benefited everybody. That was my view of China. But then came the winter of 2012. And as some of you may know, there are some ladies behind the Queen's Library since 2012 that has been distributing pamphlets about Falun Gong. In yellow shirts, it was in the middle of winter, it was really cold, and as you can see, I was pretty fat back then. And as that person, it was pretty unbearable weather. But I saw these ladies with these pamphlets telling me about Falun Gong. You see, these ladies, after encountering them, have made me realize that there was one thing that I failed to see, which were the victims of the system that I was supporting. And I remember going to that corner right there to talk to these ladies just to prove how crazy they were. Just to prove how crazy they were. And when she told me about her sister, when she told me about herself being persecuted by a government that I so supported with no question whatsoever, it began, this question began to arise in me, of which it asked, what if I'm wrong? What is the other side that I'm not looking at? As some of you may know, I'm not Chinese. I'm Korean. 안녕하세요. And I grew up here in the States most of my life. But also at the same time, let me tell you how pro-Chinese government I was, pro-CCP I was. I memorized the song called Lei Feng, right? I memorized it. There's not one Chinese communist song that you cannot sing that I do not know. I know that. I knew it. And in 2011, when there was like a riot against the Falun Gong here in Flushing, I actually praised the people here and saying, we must take them out. That's what I said. So going back to who I am today, I was what you would call a success story of the Chinese Communist Party's global campaign of propaganda. You see, even at a young age, I was so mesmerized by the image that was portrayed by the Chinese Communist Party without realizing that on the flip side, there were people who are victims of it all. Victims who had their organs taken out, victims of my fellow Christian brothers and sisters who are in jail right now suffering. Uyghurs in East Turkestan and Tibet. All of these issues, and our friends in Hong Kong. So my point is this, is that I could not have been here today also without the work that you have put on for so many years. And you might be wondering why. After that encounter with that lady in the corner, I wish she was here today. If you're here, please wave at me. I would love to say hello to you. After that event, I began to see, okay, what are other ways for me to know the truth? And as you see here, it's this truth right here, right? I asked myself, what is this truth? And I began to seek NTD TV, Epoch Times, and I became humbled and ashamed of myself because I failed to see the victims of the system, again, within which I was supporting. And then after a little while, I decided, if there were people like myself, a Korean who grew up in America, who supported the Chinese Communist Party, who actually said, 我爱中国共产党, right? I asked myself, okay, how many of me are there? So in Rochester, University of Rochester, I began to say, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to invite other people who are like me, who are going to be like me. And I organized an event almost every semester, bringing in people to tell the truth about what was going on in China. And with the lesson that I learned partly from the Falun Gong community, of the tactics of how to approach in freedom, which is to tell all these Chinese international students that, number one, I'm not against you. Matter of fact, I love you. As the Falun Gong practitioners loved you. As Christians loved you. So all these other people loved you. And number two, I'm not here to convince you. Matter of fact, I'm asking you to not trust anything that I'm saying. Anything that our panelists are saying. Except the only request that I have for you is to bring back the material and you study it yourself. Matter of fact, I was so passionate that you see the Dajiyuan boxes over there? There was a time when all of those boxes were empty because I came all the way from New Jersey during winter break one year. I guess it was the winter break of 2013. I took out all the newspapers, brought it all the way to Rochester, and I spread it all over campus so that the students, maybe some of these Chinese international students, and many others like myself, can know, can have that chance to know the truth. So let me just conclude it here. I'm here to say a few things. Number one, I apologize. I'm sorry to all of you because because outsiders like myself could have done something from the beginning. Yes, I was young. Yes, I was stupid. Yes, I was foolish, but it doesn't really give me an excuse, does it, right? Had I spoken out, had I seeked the truth a little earlier, maybe, just maybe, one more person could have been helped. I don't want to say that I'm carrying this guilt, but I'm carrying this very valuable lesson because of folks like you today have come out to say the truth. And to any CCP members over here, especially from the Chinese consulate in New York, if I can change, you can change too. You don't have to acknowledge yourself. Number two, and finally, I wanted to say thank you, 非常感谢你 for all of your bravery. Because of that moment when I accepted that truth, every single one of you here became my fathers, my mothers, my aunts, uncles, my cousins, my brothers and sisters. So today I'm not here as a supporter, I'm here as a fellow family member who maybe cannot sympathize with you 100% because I have never been in your situation. But I am here to tell you that until every single one of those locks are open, until every single one of you who have been separated from your family members can embrace your families in the future and say, my son, my daughter, my father, my mother, etc., we're finally united today. Thank you, and thank you again.